We are about to enter an area of Photoshop that I find absolutely fascinating. It's called blending modes. At one time I did teach an entire semester class and all we did was use blending modes. They're an amazingly creative way to work. Now go into your exercise files for this chapter. We have a few files that we can work with. I want you to open up this one right here, Blending Modes 101. When you're working with blending modes, there are a couple of things to understand. You will typically, the way we're working right now, be working with layers, multiple layers. One layer on top is actually defined as the blend color, not the blend layer, they call it the blend color. And the layer underneath that is called the base color. Now, when you put those both together, basically what you get is a formula. The base color plus the blend color equals the result color. Now, these terms are universal in Photoshop. So when you're listening to somebody talking about blending modes and they talk about a result or a blend or a base, this is what they are talking about. Now, what I have up here is a blend color layer. What I'm going to do with this layer is I'm going to move it for you over on top of base color. It already has a blending mode applied to it, but watch what happens when I do this. You can see it begin changing the layer underneath, almost like you're looking at that layer now under a piece of tinted glass. There are over a dozen of these things in this program, and we're going to talk about them all, but blending modes are an amazing thing. Let's get out of here and actually go into another part of this particular file. I've got three circles, red, green, and blue. And actually, let me do this too. Let me bring over the layers panel so we can get a good look at what's going on. Go ahead and make that a little bit longer. Here's the red. They are in separate layers. Now watch what happens when I go to the red layer, and here's our button right here. Got to remember where that is. Here is the blending mode option for the layer or layers that you have selected. We're going to change that to multiply. Of all of the ones that you see here, the two that are probably the easiest to kind of understand, but also really work well, are multiply and screen. Now watch what multiply does. Well, it looks like the red took a bite out of the green and the blue. Multiply works in this way. The underlying information in the base color, if it's darker, will replace anything in the top layer or the blend color, producing a result of black in this case. If I change that from multiply to screen, which is the exact opposite of what I just said, you're going to get something like that. Now, it has a lot to do with the black in the background, a lot of things going on here, but you'll notice it's beginning to blend with the green and the blue layers because they're underneath red. If I go to green and change it to screen, green and screen rhyme. It begins blending with the blue layer. Now, what you're looking at actually is additive color red, green, and blue, and subtractive color cyan, magenta, and yellow. Just simply by using a very easy blending mode, screen. Now down here, this gradient, is actually another easy way to demonstrate multiply as opposed to screen. If I go to the word normal on the gradient and change that to multiply, watch what happens. Now that's not turning gray, it's becoming transparent. That information is beginning to come through because as it gets darker, it takes over. If it's lighter than the material underneath it, it goes away. It becomes transparent. Let me go back to normal for a second. Let's change that to screen and watch the exact opposite happen. The areas that are now darker on top are going away until they achieve the goal of either being neutral or lighter, in which case they come back. Blending modes can do a whole lot for you. You can have a lot of fun with them, but you can do some very creative things in Adobe Photoshop. On to the next.